This took longer than expected, but we're finally here. Welcome to episode 3 of the Skybrid Wars. Now, this is gonna be a long one since there's a lot more than 15 teams to go over. So let's skip the formalities and get straight into announcements. Kamikaze's chess club is more successful than I could have ever imagined, and it seems multiple hybrids showed up to Maddie's movie marathon. I guarantee I didn't collect all the images out there, but these are the ones that did manage to reach my notifications. Secondly, we got some re-ranks. 2 hybrids from the last episode were moved up a rarity, Eucalyptus and Euskrehe. Eucalyptus had a refresh a few days before I finished editing episode 2, but I didn't realize it was completely different from what was judged, and I ended up ignoring it. So to make up for that mistake, I just bumped him up to legendary rank since it's not that big a deal. Euskrehe's re-rank is a bit more of a big deal as she has been moved up to the Apex rank, making her the second Apex on the fridge. However, I am still going to be nerfing her size because nothing in Euskrehe's stat sheets justifies her size. Quetzalcoatlus gained its height from its long arms and neck, reaching up to 5 meters and weighing about 400 to 600 pounds. Euskrehe is somehow 2 meters taller despite lacking said neck and weighs an extra 200 pounds. That's heavier than a Valkyriopteryx, which is the heaviest flyer ever, as of 2025 that is. Anyway, with this logic, a T-Rex that was scaled up with sauropod DNA could look like this. This is a low-level kaiju. Admittedly, Toxic P could be using the maximum upper estimates of a Quetzalcoatlus for measurements, and Euskrehe's height mainly comes from her legs, but unless she grows a long giraffe neck, she needs to be downsized to 3 meters and 600 pounds. That's still heavier than Team Mimic put together, and still strong enough to KO them in a single hit, which is what allows her to sit in Apex tier. But if for whatever reason Toxic P doesn't agree to these conditions, I will have no choice but to remove the mighty magpie from the fridge. But enough about the last episode's contestants, time to evaluate this episode's contestants. And good news, no hybrids of this batch are in or
Wow, that really didn't take long at all.
So let's just skip on over to
It's not a 5-star hotel. About a 2.5-star hotel.
Did we have any Asdarkids in the last episode? Did we even have pterosaurs at all? Ah, yes, we did. But this is our first proper combatant. While Indra lacks any features that would keep her grounded or blowing herself up, it's still not the most optimized pterosaur. Spitting Cobra is practically useless on a pterosaur, and the beaver does not spread iron to the beak and talons, as they only have iron teeth. If we really want to get technical, vampire bats also won't give us iron beaks and talons, as they need to be paired with a shrew to unlock that iron distribution, the true iron distribution. But at this point, so many hybrids use the bat for this exact reason, and it would be really sucky to collect a bunch of resubmissions with just a shrew added. So, you get a shrew, you get a shrew, you all get shrews, shrew you! And in Indra's case, she already has an iron-toothed rodent in her genome, so I'm just gonna add the vampire bat to truly unlock the iron beak and the talons. But that doesn't really change her ranking. Indra is basically a Valkyriopteryx with gar scales. Tankier than normal hats, but not invincible. And this next comment doesn't affect the ranking, but where does the Pteranodon head come from? Like, that's just a Pteranodon head. Not a Valkyriopteryx head with a crest, but straight up a Pteranodon head. Again, this doesn't really affect the ranking as that's purely cosmetics, and yeah, the previous issues are already what brings down her ranking quite a bit. Here we have a simple design, an average-sized Asdarkid that weighs less than Team Mimic, so I'm just gonna allow 3 to enter so that we can have like a fair fight here. While Judge Paleon would disagree, I don't see any major self-destructive features, so I'm going to evaluate battle tactics instead. Say Volt is soaring across the ocean, being noisy as usual. The 3 Volon Diablos could swoop in and begin attacking him. They're more agile than him, but Volt is bulkier, and a well-placed hammer strike would put one of them out of commission. Of course, it is 3 against 1 at this point, so— oh gosh, a giant spider! I've been out of the house for too long. Nature is claiming my studio. Alright, the scenario. All Volt has to do is stall long enough for Maggie to show up and outflank all of them. If they find Maggie first, well then, when Volt arrives, there might not be as many pterosaurs to hammer. The Volon Diablo is more agile than Volt, but Maggie, being a bird, is more agile than all three of them, and could probably take out one or two of them before Volt even shows up to kill the last one. That's about it. That's all I have to say about them. They put up a fight, but it's nothing too challenging for Team Mimic. What a name. Team Meatballs. I love it. Furthermore, these two don't really have any real issues, or at least nothing incredibly major. That being said, it wouldn't be too difficult for Team Mimic to defeat them. A hammer attack from Volt or a stoop from Maggie would seriously hurt the smaller Flint and Sam. Their offensive weapons aren't as great as theirs either. But props for not adding vampire bat DNA and doubling down on grip strength. Is that all I have to say about these guys? I swore this segment would last a little longer. We now have 3 gliding felines, and while Flying Spike has a similar build to Eucalyptus, he's a lot less optimized. The main factor being his bones are way too heavy, and the quills will further increase drag. It's highly unlikely that this thing is even capable of gliding, justifying the common rank, but he could still murder Team Mimic Arcthylocolio style, so he stays an epic. Ah, a fellow Soul Eater enjoyer. How could I not enjoy a hybrid named after Krona? I mean, my favorite characters are Maka, Death the Kid, and Lord Death, but that's unrelated. Unfortunately, bias doesn't change solid fact. Deinachyrus/Mipe Claws do not work with wings. On the ground, he'd have more successful results, but as this is a Skybrid War, they'll just slow him down. This is another hybrid that could very well be argued to be put in common rank, but I suppose Krona could pull off some short bursts of gliding. Not true powered flight, but definitely gliding. Also because I just didn't want to put any creatures in common this time around. This one is interesting. Ariel might be the oldest hybrid in this contest, designed to fight Indominus 2.0 after his predecessor failed. But I don't even think this would be effective against Indominus 2.0, because Doedicurus for armor and a club tail? If it weren't for the leopard gecko tail dropping ability, this guy would be grounded. But honestly, Ariel just isn't all that congruent. A lot of these abilities weren't made for flyers, so when it does take to the skies, it'll struggle greatly. But to end on a lighter note, it has a clay model, a physical model his creator can hold. That deserves a round of applause. So I'm just going to re-record this segment because I have a little more to say about this team than I originally had recorded. So since I'm currently in Mauritius as I'm doing this, like working on this whole video, I'm right next to a road and there's a lot of cars, so please excuse the random engines roaring in the background. As for Team Stormbak, I really like how Jade and Hydra basically took my statements that I wanted people to challenge me with chickens very seriously, and he made some really good chickens right here. I really like the way these two turned out, and I was honestly prepared to give these two the legendary rank as I didn't see any weaknesses up front. But then Judge Paleon does what Judge Paleon does best, and found some critical weaknesses that lower the ranking. Let's start with Ace. Despite the jungle fowl being able to fly, Ace himself probably can only function like domestic chickens, doing bigger jumps. Maybe gliding is possible, but he does have large legs that say otherwise. Bearded vultures only break bones by dropping them off of height. They aren't like T-Rexes who can just crush them. Ace can't lift or toss around either member of Team despite his bulkier legs. All three are roughly the same size, with Maggie only being a little shorter in height and Volt just being much bulkier. Blue, on the other hand, can only really fly with the assistance of warm-up drafts due to both Ramburgania and Andean Condor. Malaria is not part of the mosquito DNA, that is its own separate thing. The Sickle Claw might actually prove more useful than most other hybrids, since it's on a bird base, and since it's only one claw, not a full talon. Now, I did skip over one or two sentences that he wrote down, but the thing that really solidified their role as an epic was that Jax wanted this team ranked even lower, his reasoning being that Maggie and Volt are pretty good at hunting chickens. But that doesn't mean I want people to stop making chickens. I do want people to make more hybrid chickens to come at me. I do like the idea of this. And yeah, back to present Zane. I'm pretty sure that just sums up every hybrid I've covered in this roster so far. They have a shot of victory, but they need to work for it, and really work for it. And they'd lose most of the encounters, with the exception of the tiger. He'd probably win that one, though, no problem. But it's time to switch from gold to red, the creatures that have a much higher chance of victory, known as...
That was pretty good, actually.
Venetrix and Crusher, who shares a lot of similarities with Vault. But he has enough differences to bypass Rule 3. Yes, it's a Thalassadromius for the base, with Vampire Bat to spread iron across the body, but every other ingredient is providing a different purpose. Living up to his name, Crusher uses Bite Force to dispose of his enemies. Combining Thalassadromius with Macaw means that anything caught in that beak is going to break, especially wings. Now, this hybrid is vulnerable to drying out due to his teeth and scales needing moisture to avoid cracking, but Team Turbo is located near coast, so both members can take regular baths before the battle begins. This team was so close to reaching the unique rank, but Judge Paleon found a severe weakness in Venetrix. His venomous bite is delivered through every tooth in his mouth. This means venom production would be cranked up to the max, which could lead to his self-destruction. Granted, this is also a weakness found in Kamikaze, who needs to produce venom throughout the entire body. And Venetrix could easily fix his own issue by limiting the venom to 2 fangs or saliva. As this is such a quick fix, this team can remain in this tier.
I am the powerful, the pleasurable, the indestructible Mushu. Oh, pretty high, man.
I don't have too much to say about Mushu. He shares a similar build with many hybrids of this batch, and has Darkid with porcupine quills. There's definitely better versions of this build later on, but what Mushu needs most of all is a small sidekick. In a 1v1, Mushu wouldn't have had a hard time killing Maggie or Vault, but this is a 2v1, and Team Mimic are especially trained to kill as Darkids. Neither will be able to grapple onto Mushu due to the quills, but if Maggie grabs the face, she could create an opening for Vault to break something, possibly getting a face full of quills in the process. This is a victory that Team Mimic would need to work for, but Mushu would need to work equally hard for his own victory. Rodan, Kamazots, and Shinomaru. Shinomura. All named after kaiju and have a unique way of communication, though not the most effective one. Wasp pheromones take time to lay down as opposed to verbal communication between teammates. So by the time Kamazots lays out a message for Rodan, it'll be too late. Rodan will probably already be defeated because he didn't get the message in time. But that aside, this team is held back heavily by Shinomaru. Shino. Just gonna call it Shino for short. This bug is just too small to be a threat to Team Mimic. Korn had size to back up his sting and jaws, but this wouldn't even chip Vault scales. Furthermore, the bug would have a hard time keeping up with the battle, like a pigeon trying to catch up to a helicopter in motion. This already affects the Not Bird's performance, but Rodan and Kamazots could still fare well in a 2v2. But since Team Mimic have better quick-time communication, they snag the win. They may not understand every word in the English dictionary, but they do understand... Now, due to these two being a lot bigger than Team Mimic, they'll be judged separately, starting with William. This dragon-looking giant is truly a menace. Using Pelagornis to lift the heavier head was a smart move, and honey buzzard feathers provide a natural armor that doesn't interfere with flight. However, these feathers that were designed to prevent bee stings aren't strong enough to survive Vault's hammer attack. While the listed hammer force is only possible with a suicide charge, a strike from a metal beak is still going to cause pain, even with chainmail feathers absorbing the blow. But without spiny quills to prevent grappling and latching, Team Mimic can deploy their usual anti-Asdarkid strategies, avoiding the head while aiming for the weak spots. A challenge to take down, but can still be taken down. Henry, on the other hand, is in a bit more trouble. Hollow bones from the Rhamphorhynchus aid in gliding, but those specialized rib bones would have a hard time keeping a Megalania-sized lizard airborne. Additionally, the flying fishtail rudder likely wouldn't work on a lizard build, meaning Henry can only effectively launch off of trees. Thankfully, the arms of the Hoplophonius allow him to climb said trees, but they would need to be especially large ones. And the denser the foliage, the harder it will be for him to glide without crashing into something. These weaknesses would usually result in epic rank or lower, but since we already have a lot of epics and I don't want to separate the two kings, they'll both be ranked as
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Another group without a name, meet Pacifica, Ski, and Ski 2. Due to being incredibly speedy bats, Ski ×2 can distract Team Mimic long enough for Pacifica to swoop in and murder one of them. If Ski ×2 stayed alive during the distraction phase, then this battle would turn into a 1v3. However, since Ski ×2 was specifically designed to fight Maggie, and Maggie decides to fly higher, then Ski ×2 will run into trouble. Freezing. Replacing the fur with scales means these bats are vulnerable to the cold. Additionally, Komodo dragon scales will sacrifice said speed, making them easier to catch. If it weren't for the fact that Pacifica could stand her ground on her own, this team could have ended up ranked as epic. Pacifica carries this team. But even without the bats, she'd be legendary due to Team Mimic's anti-Asdarkit strategies, but the tenor quills make it difficult for grappling without causing flight issues. Okay, one more before the next category. This is only one member of the Martians, made by the same guy who made Ken. And just like Ken, I didn't see nicknames, so I named them Keru and Besu, after Ken's puppets. Unfortunately, these two beautifully drawn pterosaurs were too big to team up, so they will also be judged as individuals. The absence of Besu means Keru is about as effective as Pacifica, except maybe weaker. Keru was built for offense with a mouthful of teeth that'll crush either member of Team Mimic. But he has zero defensive features, lacking fish scales or sharp quills to prevent Volt's grab and smash techniques. He'd go down fighting and inflict heavy injuries, but he'd still go down. Yeah, this episode I feel kind of like a broken record, as most of these hybrids just like, yeah, they could win, but they'd have to work for it. Or, yeah, they could win, but it won't be easy. But I think that's about to change when we get to the 4 hybrids left on this list. So let's jump right into...
He's good. Very good.
If I had a nickel for every time a dragonfly with ant jaws made the unique tier, I'd have 2. Yeah, you know how this goes. This thing has a lot of similarities with Korn, who drew Beetlejuice's art for this episode and admitted himself that this thing makes Korn quake in his boots. But because it's so similar to Korn, just being a bit bulkier in favor of speed for comparison, it gets judged the same way. Powerful, dangerous, but competitive without a queen to boss them around. Yeah. That's it for unique tier. So that means we have not 1, not 2, but 3!
Savages! Savages! Savages!
Even without Keru, Besu can dominate. Heck, without him, he can actually reach his full size instead of being scaled down. This is probably the first hybrid we've covered where Judge Paleon didn't smash it with the logic hammer. One of the coolest additions of Besu is his snow leopard feet. Sorry, to be more specific, the feet padding to make him very quiet when he walks. This practically makes him a silent stalker on the ground, excellent for ambush tactics. And in the sky, he's equally as terrifying. A strong beak for stabbing or biting, and quills for defense. The sheer size of this beast combined with its offense and defense, and the fact it has little room for self-destruction, solidifies Besu's role as an apex. Keru didn't make it, but Besu did. I'm sure he's happy for him. Another Hatzikopteryx hybrid. Get used to that, there's gonna be a lot of these. Anyways, this is another hybrid that has very few issues, though this could vary depending on how you interpret certain information in his video. But even though this guy lacks defensive features like previous hybrids, and its legs can't be used offensively like advertised, at least while flying anyway, Javi can still take out Team Mimic pretty easily. By gaining high altitudes thanks to his better respiratory system, Javi could drop down and punch both members out of the sky before they even realize he's there. Additionally, his beak, reinforced with woodpecker DNA, could stab through both members' vitals with little resistance. I suppose if Team Mimic discovered Javi first, they could use their usual tactics, but a punch or a peck in the right spot will result in critical damage. Another hybrid, worthy of Apex. Also, all 3 judges agree that we love the fact that this is based off of the Great Blue Windrunner from The Future is Wild, without actually being a Great Blue Windrunner from The Future is Wild. Yeah, the Valkyriopteryx, the one that made it to the final 16, Maddie's superior. I remember when I first saw Dionette comment on the video and I was like, holy moly, I'm gonna have Valkyriopteryx in my show! And it shows why this hybrid ranked so high. Even without flying, this thing is a menace. One shot from that beak and you're dead. Curiously, Judge Paleon pointed out a potential flaw. Woodpecker brain cushions work due to their long tongue and small brain. The long tongue basically wrapping around the brain as a 3-layered cushion. While it's not stated that Valkyriopteryx has this tongue, it's pretty much assumed that it needs the tongue because, like, if he's adding the reinforcement to the cranium, then that means the tongue is included, which means Valkyriopteryx has this tongue. This also applies to Javi, who borrowed the woodpecker recipe for himself. Anyway, yeah, this hybrid doesn't have too many modifications, so there's little room for error. Combined with quills and a strong beak, Valkyriopteryx is basically a simplified version of Besu, surprisingly, and deserves the Apex rank. Thus, we now have 5 Apex Flyers on the fridge. A little concerning that 3 of the 5 of these creatures are Hatzigopteryxes, but I'm confident we can get more variety in the future. Now to distribute Maddie medals, which is going to be very hard because, oh wow, there's a lot of good ones this time around. I'm giving myself a little mini rule about how I distribute Maddie medals, like 3 per episode, and they have to go, in one episode, they cannot go to the same rarity, so I cannot give all 3 medals to 3 apexes of this episode. They need to go to like 2 other rarities. But the Martians is technically supposed to be one team split into 2, so they both get to share a Maddie medal. I think I just have to give one to Krona because Soul Eater. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that Valkyriopteryx was my favorite of the final 16. Right up there with Akira and Gilgamesh. Another side rule for Maddie medals is that I cannot give these to...
Burn my house to the ground!
Tickets, please.
My family's dead! What do I do?
Tickets, please.
Because they're joke hybrids, and they're just gonna win all the Maddie medals. Speaking of which, let's take a look at them.
If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight. Sun Tzu said that, and I'd say he knows a little more about fighting than you do, pal, because he invented it.
Ayo, the pizza here!
Chugga!
Coughs and sneezels spread diseasels.
Mein Wing! Oh, that...
Oh no, they're named after his dead pets, I think. Oh no, that's so sad. I salute you two. Yeah, this is the true champion of the wind right here. Is what I would have said if this next guy didn't exist. Oh yeah, this I have no words. I mean, this is the world's fastest flyer right here. It's beautiful. This is perfect in every way. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our Klig equivalent. This distinguished gentleman will wander the lab and capture the hearts of everyone who works here. Unless, of course, Crawler wants him back because he's just visiting. And that's about everything. Yeah, this was a long one, and I don't really have a proper outro or cool sentence to tease the next episode. So, here's a picture of one of the teams. Yeah, there you go. Please remember that these episodes take time to make, and asking questions like, when's the next episode? Or, is my hybrid in the next episode? Is quite unmotivating, so please refrain from asking, especially when I'm trying to work on other videos. It just makes me feel like people only like me for my Skybrids. That's not true, is it? Huge thanks to my artists, Lego Monsterverse Rex and Master Dragon. Yes, that's right, a few of these hybrids were drawn by the creator of Korn, which is it's great because they're amazing artists and they do amazing jobs, and it just saves me a lot of time. So again, huge thank you to both of you. And another thank you to Judge Jax and Judge Paleon for helping me spot strengths and weaknesses in contestants and keeping me from giving everyone the Apex rarity. Thank you to everyone who had a hybrid featured this episode. Angerous Studios, Arc987, @Ronus, #FreeMe, #FreeSulfur, Nick, Bonzel28, Bull of the Mesozoic, Chicken from Mars, Conciliatory Past, Dionet, Jaden Hydra, Jayanator7, fellow Soul Eater fan Kirona Mythos, Crawler Cry, Big Boy Snappajaws Jr., Crocodile Emoji, Mira, Nemagon Plays. I forgot to mention this when I covered Beetlejuice, but get used to this name because they have made so many hybrids that from now on, there's just gonna be a hybrid from them every episode. Nexus, Penguin from Moon, S.Creations, Goji Oreo Droid, that's another name you're gonna have to look out for a lot because they also made a lot of hybrids, Cenes Dracosaurus, The Twisted King Stortus, Triggerfish, Tryword 4K, Wilder, Wild Nerd, and that's it. That's everyone. We're done here. Well, I'm gonna go paint a dinosaur. Been a while since I did that.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video from beginning to end. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and join the Zainreborn community. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.